Caitlin Clark never missed a game in high school, and she stayed healthy throughout her entire college career. So why has she dealt with so many injuries during her second and third WNBA seasons? In this video, we break down the complete timeline, from the hard body checks she faced in 2024 to the missed foul calls in 2025, and the controversial throat hit from Alyssa Thomas in 2026 that many believe pushed everything too far. Over the past 3 seasons, one player has taken more than 20% of the league's flagrant fouls, and that player is Caitlin Clark. Many fans believe this is no longer a coincidence, but a clear pattern, with officials repeatedly failing to protect her on the court. Sophie Cunningham finally spoke out, calling out the officiating after reaching her limit, as she and Caitlin Clark expressed their frustration with what they believe has been unfair treatment from the referees. Let us know in the comments which hit or missed call against Caitlin Clark you think was the worst, and whether you believe the WNBA officials should be held more accountable.
I know what you guys are going to ask, and I did think it was a flagrant foul, and our reffing just needs to be better. And
on June 24th, 2026, during the Indiana Fever's game against the Connecticut Sun, Caitlin Clark chased a loose ball in a hectic scramble. Moments after releasing it, Alyssa Thomas appeared to drive a knee into Clark's groin, sending her to the floor. While Clark was still down, Thomas followed with what many viewers believed was a punch to her throat. Despite the contact happening in full view of the officials, no whistle came immediately. Referees were only a few feet away, watching the entire sequence unfold. Yet play continued for several moments before any call was made, leaving many fans questioning how such a serious incident was not addressed in real time.
Streaking to the basket, and here's what hustle plays are all about. You got 3 Phoenix players around Caitlin Clark, and yeah, it's physical.
I mean, Caitlin to the ground, and ooh, that's a hand to the neck, and then Alyssa Thomas steps over her. See, that's the kind of stuff that can incite some future trouble.
Take a closer look at where the officials were during the play. They had a clear view of the entire sequence, yet no immediate foul was called. The ball had already left Caitlin Clark's hands. She was on the floor with little chance to protect herself, and Alyssa Thomas stepped over her, coming dangerously close to making even more contact. Fans didn't need slow-motion replays to believe something serious had happened, but once the video spread across social media, the debate exploded. Many people pointed out how much time passed before the officials reacted, calling the delay difficult to understand. After the game, the league reviewed the footage and later upgraded the play to a flagrant foul while also issuing Thomas a 1-game suspension. That decision sparked even more discussion because many fans argued that if the officials had made the correct call in real time, Thomas would have been ejected immediately instead of remaining in the game. To many observers, it appeared that the league only took stronger action after reviewing the video and facing widespread public criticism.
Thomas, a 1-game suspension. So what they did is they assessed her a flagrant 2 foul for what they say is a reckless contact with her fist to the throat of Caitlin Clark in last night's game. This was not called at all in the game. And then Clark, on a closeout by a Mercury player, came down, landed on a foot, and re-injured her back. That was also not called in the game, which
Caitlin Clark was not entering this game at full strength after dealing with a back issue earlier in the season. Following the collision involving Alyssa Thomas, she was ruled out of the Indiana Fever's next games against the Los Angeles Sparks and the Las Vegas Aces. Although reports later suggested she was improving and taking part in individual workouts, her recovery once again became a major topic of discussion. Many fans believe a pattern has developed, with Clark returning from one injury only to suffer another hard hit that delays her progress. The sequence involving the knee, the contact to her throat, and the step over has become the moment many people reference when discussing player safety and officiating. Critics argue that the incident was not properly addressed during the game and only received stronger action after video reviews and widespread public attention. For many viewers, it became one of the clearest examples fueling ongoing debate about how Clark has been officiated and whether similar situations have happened too often throughout her WNBA career.
You got to give landing space when the player comes up.
How many hard fouls does it take before people stop calling it bad luck and start seeing a pattern? For many fans, the discussion didn't begin with the Alyssa Thomas incident in 2026. They believe it started during Caitlin Clark's rookie season in May 2024 and continued from there. One of the earliest moments frequently mentioned came in a game against the Seattle Storm, where Clark appeared to take multiple hits to the head without receiving the foul calls that many viewers expected. Those plays quickly became part of a growing debate over whether she was getting the same level of protection from officials as other players, a conversation that has continued throughout her WNBA career.
Seconds left. Goes around to Gumake, drives baseline, and shot rejected by Izzy McMagor. Second opportunity is up and in by Nalissa Smith. Very entertaining first half about Seattle, and all of a sudden, we're pretty close. This has been as close as it's been all second quarter long, 44.
June of 2024, a blindside body check from Kennedy Carter and a hit to the head from Angel Reese.
Good. Kennedy Carter now with 12 points off the bench.
Clark! Hammer!
Then, in a later game during the same season, more hits from the Chicago Sky.
Here's Clark for 29 points, gets tripped up.
And who could forget this body check from Alyssa Thomas?
Take another look here at the heavy contact. A little bit of a shoulder there. Not a little bit, a lot of a shoulder there for Alyssa Thomas.
Yeah, they're not going to look at this.
That's
They might.
Gotten the fans here fired up.
In June 2024, the controversy grew even bigger after another series of physical plays involving Caitlin Clark. During one game, Kennedy Carter delivered a hard off-ball body check that immediately became one of the most talked about moments of the season. Around the same period, another play involving Angel Reese also drew attention after Clark appeared to take contact to the head. Both incidents sparked intense debate among fans and analysts, with many questioning whether officials were doing enough to protect one of the league's biggest stars, and whether similar plays were being handled consistently across the WNBA.
As everyone else has seen this angle. I'm calling her in, and I'm saying to her, I need answers.
During the 2024 playoffs, another controversial moment added to the growing conversation. In a play involving Dijanai Carrington, Caitlin Clark took contact to the eye that left her with noticeable bruising. Clark appeared to struggle afterward, missing all 6 of her 3-point attempts in the first half. The incident quickly became a major talking point because many fans believed the contact to her face deserved a foul, while others debated whether it was simply part of normal basketball action. The play fueled even more discussion about officiating consistency and player protection throughout the season.
Quarter we go. They're trailing by 10. Keep an eye on her and JC Sheldon. Clark trying to back her down.
Clark is okay.
Sheldon, fouls Clark, hitting her in the face. Clark is upset about that. Then everybody's upset about that. Marina Mabry comes in. She decks Clark. Tempers flaring on both sides.
Now compare.
As the 2025 season unfolded, many fans felt the physical play involving Caitlin Clark became even more intense. There were hard collisions, contact to the groin, heavy screens that were replayed repeatedly online, and eye contact incidents that left Clark visibly uncomfortable for the remainder of games. Each new play added to the ongoing debate about whether officials were doing enough to protect players. During a heated matchup against the Connecticut Sun, JC Sheldon made contact with Clark's eye during one sequence, and moments later, Marina Mabry became involved in a physical exchange that sparked even more controversy. The game quickly turned into one of the season's most talked about matchups, with fans continuing to question the consistency of the officiating. Many fans also point to the difference between how physical plays against Caitlin Clark are officiated and how quickly her own reactions are penalized. In an August 18th game against the Seattle Storm, Clark was assessed a technical foul after hitting the basket padding in frustration following a tough sequence. Earlier in the game, Skylar Diggins-Smith made shoulder contact with Clark near the bench, but no foul was called, leading to widespread debate online about the consistency of officiating. Critics argued that physical contact often went unpunished while emotional reactions drew immediate penalties. Supporters of this view also highlight a broader statistic. noting that Clark has been on the receiving end of more than 20% of the league's flagrant fouls since entering the WNBA, despite being just one player among the league's many active athletes. To them, that number suggests a trend extending across multiple seasons rather than a series of isolated incidents. Fueling continued discussion about player protection and officiating standards, many fans point out that the same names continue to appear in discussions about physical plays involving Caitlin Clark, including Alyssa Thomas, Kennedy Carter, Marina Mabrey, JC Sheldon, and Angel Reese. They argue that these repeated incidents have kept the conversation alive season after season. Clark was remarkably durable before turning professional, never missing a game in either high school or college, since joining the WNBA in 2024. However, she has dealt with multiple injuries, including a quad strain, a groin strain, an ankle injury, back problems, and the controversial throat contact that sparked widespread debate. Supporters believe the combination of repeated physical play and the number of flagrant fouls involving Clark raises important questions about player protection and officiating consistency. The discussion has also spread beyond the WNBA, with several national commentators and analysts expressing concerns about how games are being officiated and whether current standards are being applied fairly.
Ever notice when Caitlin Clark is the victim, she never plays the role of the victim? She spoke up publicly for the first time since Alyssa Thomas came out publicly and said she's been getting death threats to her and her family, and there has been racial slurs thrown at her. What I want to know, Alyssa Thomas, have you reported this to the police? Have you reported this to the FBI? Because they'll get on it and they'll find who's responsible.
Linda Cohn spent 34 years at ESPN before she retired, and she didn't hold back on her way out the door. She said the bad officiating in the WNBA has led to most of this controversy, all of it really, and then she asked the question everyone's been thinking. Is there an agenda here that I don't know about?
The bad officiating in the WNBA has led to most of this minutia. Yeah, most of this controversy. All of these controversies. Be better, officials. Is there an agenda here that I don't know about? Speaking of agendas, congratulations for Caitlin Clark. 3 straight years named and voted an All-Star Game starter. That's the great news. Second most votes by the fans for Caitlin Clark. The media, third most votes for Caitlin Clark by members of the media.
That's not a fan on Twitter typing in all caps. That's a veteran broadcaster with 3.5 decades in the business, wondering out loud if something behind the scenes is shaping how these games get called.
Players in the WNBA, how do they feel about Caitlin Clark and how she is as a guard? Well, they ranked her 11th best among guards. Her numbers and all the other votes got her in as a starter despite that stupidity by many WNBA players who had a vote.
Colin Cowherd took a different angle and went straight at the players themselves. He's argued that Clark got crowned the queen of the league before she even showed up, and plenty of veterans resented that framing before she took a single shot as a pro. Cowherd's take is that Clark gets treated and attacked and harassed differently than virtually every other player on the floor, and he's asked why WNBA players keep biting the hand that feeds them, given how much revenue and attention she's brought into the league.
You moved her road games to bigger arenas to accommodate the fans. You were flying the last 6 rows of Southwest Airlines until she made such an impact, you pivoted to private jets. And she's not on the 30-year poster, but Paige Beckers and Angel Reese are.
Veteran sports broadcaster Linda Cohn, who spent 34 years at ESPN before retiring, also weighed in on the ongoing conversation. Speaking openly after her departure, she shared her thoughts on the situation and did not hold back, adding her voice to the growing debate surrounding the way Caitlin Clark has been officiated and treated on the court.
You're not the NBA. You don't have an 11-year, $77 billion contract. You are building the league. You just reached an incredible collective bargaining agreement. You understand they did a great job with that. The league is growing, and it's reaching some of its aspirations, no doubt, but there's still a lot more work to be done. Don't get in the way of the cash cow. You don't sit up there and pave a way for her and don't compete. Nobody's implying that. But you certainly ride that tidal wave of popularity and use it to your advantage to build the game, not compromise and hurt the game by taking her out.
Now, this wasn't just another emotional reaction from a fan on social media. It came from a respected broadcaster with more than 3 decades of experience in sports media, publicly questioning whether factors beyond the game itself could be influencing how certain calls are made. Her comments added even more attention to the ongoing debate about the consistency of officiating and how games involving Caitlin Clark have been managed.
Officiating's awful and way too physical. Way too physical. The NBA allows physicality in the finals when the season's at the very end. But they want to keep their players healthy for the regular season and early rounds of the playoffs. Why hurt your content? Adam Silver in the league now. You get to the finals, that's a man's game. Wemby, good luck. WNBA regular season is officiated like UFC.
That sports commentator Colin Cowherd offered a different perspective by focusing on the reaction from players around the league. He has argued that Caitlin Clark entered the WNBA with enormous expectations and was quickly promoted as one of the league's biggest stars, creating tension before she had even played her first professional game. According to Cowherd, Clark has faced a level of physical play, criticism, and attention that few other players experience. He has also questioned why some players continue to clash with someone who has helped bring record-breaking attention, television ratings, and new fans to the WNBA, suggesting that the league should do more to protect one of its most influential stars while embracing the growth she has helped generate.
What resources does the league provide for you guys as players to kind of help you try to filter through some of the hate and negative things that come through on social media?
I think that honestly, I don't know what our league does to help with that. If they really do anything, you can put out statements as much as you want.
Cunningham went first.
Sports commentator Stephen A. Smith has offered another viewpoint, arguing that it is unfair to blame Caitlin Clark's style of play for the amount of physical contact she receives. He has said that when repeated flagrant fouls and controversial incidents continue to involve the same player over multiple seasons, it naturally raises questions about how games are being officiated. While different commentators have offered different explanations, their conclusions share common ground. Linda Cohn has questioned whether there could be deeper issues influencing officiating. Colin Cowherd has suggested that resentment from some veteran players may be a factor. And Stephen A. Smith has argued that the league has not done enough to protect one of its biggest stars. Although they disagree on the cause, all three have publicly expressed concerns about the current state of officiating in games involving Caitlin Clark.
So I think for us, as the league's just got to do better protecting our players in that regard. I don't really think that it was up for debate. Obviously, it wasn't called in real time. You go back and watch the clip. I think it's pretty straightforward. It's kind of been a discussion for like 3 years now, and I think we really need to do a better job protecting the people in this league. And obviously, I've been involved in a few of those plays, but there's been plenty others across the league that haven't got called. Go back and post game or whatever it is. Teams submit clips, nothing really changes. So I think overall the league just has to do better, and we have to invest in those areas.
Some analysts argue that the physical play Caitlin Clark experiences is simply part of professional basketball, and that every player has to adjust to that level of contact. However, critics respond by questioning why similar plays often appear to be called differently when they involve other players. Journalist Christine Brennan also weighed in, criticizing WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert for what she viewed as an inadequate response to questions about the Alyssa Thomas incident. Brennan argued that the league should have addressed the situation more directly, and added that Clark has shown considerable restraint despite the attention surrounding these controversies. Meanwhile, sports commentator Dan Dakich, who has been critical of Clark at times in the past, shifted his focus to the Indiana Fever and argued that the team needed to do a better job of protecting its franchise player, even suggesting that if he were in her family's position, he would be seriously evaluating the situation.
At the end of the day, you're in an entertainment business. That's when mental toughness comes in. If you're going to live by praise, you're going to die by the hate. And so I think that's on the individual person to have mental toughness. Some people can deal with it, some people can't. And I think you can see the ones who can. And unfortunately, there are some who can't. And it's not beneficial to them. But you can't control what other people say or what other people do. All you can do is control yourself, how you treat people. Speak up, and support people who, maybe don't have a voice or don't have the courage to do that. But, it's one of those things. You're in the entertainment business and you have to expect it.
The demand taken together, commentators including Linda Cohn, Colin Cowherd, Stephen A. Smith, Christine Brennan, and Dan Dakich all voiced concerns about the situation, even though each approached it from a different perspective. While their explanations varied, they shared the view that the handling of these incidents deserved closer attention. After the Alyssa Thomas play, Caitlin Clark remained publicly silent for 9 days. During that time, fans closely watched for any statement, interview, or social media response, but she chose not to comment. As discussions continued across the league and online, anticipation grew over what she might eventually say. When Clark finally faced reporters, many in the room understood that her first public remarks on the incident would be one of the most closely watched moments since the controversy began. Sophie Cunningham spoke first and answered the questions directly. When asked whether the league was doing enough to protect players from online abuse, she replied that she honestly did not know what the WNBA was doing to address the issue. She added that professional sports are part of the entertainment business, and that public praise and criticism come with the spotlight, making it clear she believed the league still had work to do. Caitlin Clark then addressed the on-court incident, saying she believed the play should have been ruled a flagrant foul. She also broadened the discussion beyond her own experience, arguing that officiating needs to improve across the league because questionable calls affect many teams, and organizations regularly submit game clips for review without seeing meaningful changes. Clark suggested that the WNBA invest more in officiating by making referees full-time employees and providing better technology to help ensure calls on the court are more accurate and consistent.
Technology can get better. We can treat the referees a little bit better, pay them like they're full-time employees. I think things like that. And
compare that. Clark also shifted the conversation beyond officiating, saying she was disappointed that her team's strong performance immediately after the incident received far less attention than the controversy itself. She described that imbalance as a disservice to the league, explaining that great basketball should remain the main focus. Clark said she would like to see more positivity surrounding the sport because fans and players alike benefit from celebrating the game, while also acknowledging that the expectations placed on her at just 24 years old can be challenging at times. Meanwhile, Sophie Cunningham has continued to embrace her role as one of the Fever's most outspoken veterans. She has consistently stepped in during tense moments to support her teammates, and the Fever locker room has openly backed that approach. Many observers see it as part of the team's culture of standing up for one another, with Cunningham willing to speak publicly when she believes something needs to be addressed.
Obviously, not every they're humans, looking at technology. Basketball is a little more complex than tennis, for instance, around technology of officiating. So we're looking at a variety of different dimensions.
Because the message from Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham was straightforward. They called for better officiating, greater investment in referees, and more consistent enforcement of flagrant fouls. Their comments were not about creating controversy, but about improving accountability and ensuring games are officiated fairly. Rather than making emotional accusations, both players calmly explained why they believe changes are needed. Their remarks quickly became a major talking point, but the bigger issue is what happens after the headlines fade. Similar debates have surfaced. The real issue is whether the discussion leads to meaningful structural change. Caitlin Clark outlined what she believes those improvements should include, suggesting that the league invest in better technology and treat referees as full-time professionals with higher pay and more support. Rather than simply expressing frustration over a single call, she offered specific ideas aimed at improving officiating across the WNBA. Supporters of this approach argue that full-time officials would benefit from more training, greater accountability, and increased consistency from game to game. They also believe that better technology could help referees make more accurate decisions during fast-moving plays, reducing controversial calls, and improving the overall quality and fairness of the game. Clark also pointed to what she sees as a lack of transparency in how officiating issues are handled. Supporters often compare the WNBA's process with the NBA, which publicly releases last 2-minute reports for certain close games and has internal systems to evaluate officials and address repeated mistakes. Critics argue that the WNBA has fewer visible accountability measures. Clark noted that teams regularly submit video clips of questionable calls to the league office, but said the feedback rarely appears to result in noticeable changes. That perceived lack of transparency has become a major source of frustration for many fans and analysts. Some critics have also called on Commissioner Kathy Engelbert to address officiating concerns more directly by publicly acknowledging the issues and outlining specific steps to improve consistency, rather than relying primarily on post-game reviews after controversial incidents. Many observers argue that the debate over officiating goes beyond fairness because it also has major business implications for the league. When Caitlin Clark missed time with an injury, television ratings for nationally broadcast WNBA games fell sharply, highlighting the significant impact her presence has on viewership and fan interest. Clark has become one of the league's biggest attractions, helping drive ticket sales, fill arenas on the road, and bring new audiences to the sport. While the Indiana Fever have shown they can remain competitive without her, many believe no player can fully replace the level of attention and exposure she generates. Supporters of stronger officiating standards argue that improving player protection and the increasing consistency would not only benefit the game itself, but also help safeguard one of the league's most valuable stars. They believe that failing to address ongoing concerns could affect both player safety and the WNBA's continued growth as interest in the league expands. Looking back at everything discussed, the knee to the groin, the contact to the throat, the eye poke, the repeated physical plays, the criticism from several well-known media figures, and Caitlin Clark's own suggestions for improving officiating, it is clear why the conversation has become one of the biggest topics surrounding the WNBA. Many fans believe Clark has faced an unusual amount of physical contact and want to see more consistent officiating and stronger player protection. Despite the challenges, Clark has continued to compete, support her teammates, and stay focused on winning, even after being ranked lower than many expected in player voting. If the league improves officiating and keeps its top players healthy, many believe Clark and the Indiana Fever will have an even better chance to compete for a championship. Let us know in the comments which play or missed call involving Caitlin Clark stands out to you the most, and whether you think the league should